good. Today I wanted to walk you through some features in spreadsheets. I wanted to share what I learned with reference to Google Sheets, though the concepts apply to Excel as well. The easiest way to use a spreadsheet is as a dumb two-dimensional text editor. So let me open Chrome and I have this blog stat spreadsheet which I'll use for this. Now, what can you do with this? One is you can set the width of a column by double clicking this one based on the content in it. You can see there's a bug here, it has put in double space. Now, again, if I double click, it will expand to fit this. I can select cells and then I can say delete, which will replace it with the empty string, right? The cell is there, it's not deleted actually, it's just cleared. Or I can select a row and press delete to clear it. So it has become blank. Or alternatively, I can select the row, right click and select delete. In this case, the row has been deleted and the previous row has moved up. So what was the third row is now the second row. I'll press Ctrl Z and you can see medium was the third row. Now it's the second row. So you can select an entire row and do any kind of operation on it. Maybe you want to change the text color to, let's say, yellow. Or you want to right align it. You can press Shift to select multiple rows. Click the first one, then press Shift and click the last one. Then again, you can change any property of it. If you want to select non-contiguous rows, you can select one, press Ctrl rather than Shift. Now these two are selected. Now I can make the background black, let's say. The same thing applies for columns. Click a single column, press Shift to select a range, or select one, press Ctrl to select, Command on the Mac, to select to make a non-contiguous selection. You can also select a row and a column. So this is how it was at the beginning. So in fact, the way I made all of this blue, the headers as well as this, was by selecting A and 1 and then changing it to blue. Now I'll make it yellow to show you. You can drag and drop columns to reorder. If total subscribers you want before email subscribers, just drag and drop. Similarly, drag and drop rows. You can merge cells. So if you want to say something like, this is the number of subscribers since 2020. You can merge these two by clicking this. You see, it looks like two arrows coming together, and you can merge all, merge vertically, merge horizontally. So if you do this, this is a horizontal merge. A vertical merge would be these two getting merged. And merge all would be both rows and columns if I want to merge all four of these into one. You can insert anywhere. You can right click a column and select insert one to the left, or you can right click it and select insert one to the right. Similarly with rows. You can also do this. You can insert a cell and shift it below. So let's say I'll just create another sheet and another tab with this. Google Sheets call this sheets. Whereas the entire thing is called a spreadsheet. So a spreadsheet contains sheets. So let's say I want to write down the prices of some fruits, let's say pineapple, apple, mango, let's say. And an apple costs, I don't know, 80 rupees and the mango costs 40 or 20. Now I have made a mistake. This should have been for apple and this should have been here. There are two ways you can do it. One is you can select the range and you select by dragging from the first to the last, right, using the mouse. You select the range, do Control X, then where do you want to paste the first element in the range? Here, and Control V, right? So I'll do it, I'll show you again. I selected this. Suppose I want 80 to come here, where you can see the mouse, D2. I select the first one, then I do this. So one way of fixing this is to cut and paste it one level below, one row below. But there's a shortcut as well, which is you can say insert cells and shift down. So it'll create an empty cell here and push everything down, and the other columns remain as they are. Similarly, you can shift to the right. You can copy paste a cell to duplicate it, or an entire row wherever you want to. And if you, okay, and let's add a support which costs 40 rupees. Pineapple costs 100. Now, suppose you want to insert this here between these two. One is you can drag and drop it here. That will be a move. Suppose you want to copy, you do Command C or Control C, then you insert a blank row, then you paste it. Now you have two supporters. Now sometimes when you have a lot of data on a small screen, what happens is when the user scrolls, they can't see it. Let's add some more. Do I have a spreadsheet for this purpose? I think I do. Let me open that. Yeah, so, well, I don't have it ready now, but let me just copy paste this multiple times to create a big. Now here, let's say I create a header, fruit and price. Often the alignment is wrong, it looks ugly. So select the whole thing and choose one alignment. And if it is numbers, they should always be right aligned. Let's say you make it blue, bold. Now as you scroll, the header scrolls off the screen, which is a problem. Now if I'm just looking at this, I don't know what it is. So for that, I can say view, freeze, one row. This one now locks in place as you scroll, you see? Similarly, you can do that for a column. You have alignment, horizontal and vertical. Let me make this bigger. This is right align, left align, center. Similarly, vertical is at the top, at the center, at the bottom. You can also select what to do for big text. New Zealand apple grown on South Island, let's say. Now this one by default, it overflows. It's called overflow. You can make it wrap, which means it will stay in the same column and take more rows. Or you can make it clip, in which case it's cut off. And in that case, to read the entire text, you need to click it, and then here in the formula bar, it shows you. You can add a comment and mention someone. So you can say, Mention somebody. Let's mention whoever. Sony. When will the new alpha come out? And then they, assuming this is like a valid Google account, when you press comment, they'll get an email saying that they have been mentioned on a document. If they don't have access, it will say, hey, do you want to share the spreadsheet with Sony before you make this comment? Um, and they can reply and so on, right? So let me not spam Sony. I will just do this. And then somebody else can reply like this. And once the discussion is over and the issue, the question is resolved, you can delete it. Or even better, you can mark as resolved, in which case it goes away. But if you want, you can still click here to see all the resolved comments. This is like an archive in email. It's still there. There's also a note. So you can add a note. This is in kg if purchased on Big Basket. A note is not meant for a discussion between multiple people. It's just some extra information you're adding. Could be for yourself as well. So you don't reply to a note, you don't resolve a note. It's not a discussion. You can also have a link. It becomes a link. You can also change how it displays. Say Apple. You can import anything. So you can use this shortcut sheet.new to create a new Google Sheet. So let's say I have put in whatever, let's say vegetables and onion 20. Now you can export or import it. So you can say download in all these formats, Excel, Open Document, PDF, etc. And PDF, what you can do is you can print without grid lines. I use this for my invoices. And the reason I use it for an invoice is you have tax which needs to be dynamically calculated. So if the fee is, let's say, 100 rupees, the GST would be 18 rupees. And then the total should be 118. So when you change one, the remaining two should change. And I used to use a Google Doc that led to wrong invoices being sent out. So then I used a spreadsheet so that these calculations happen automatically. But I also don't want the grid lines. I don't want it to look like a spreadsheet. That's something I can do. And you can select current sheet, or if you have selected a cell before printing, let's do this. Let's select, oops, let's select these two cells and now hit Command P. If I want to print only the selected cells, I can do that, or the current sheet, or all sheets if there are multiple sheets. And you can also fit to page. You see this option? This will ensure that it fits in one page. Sometimes when printing, it's annoying. It becomes two pages and you have to delete a line, then again print and see the print preview, then reduce the font size, then see the print preview. It's a very dumb thing to do. If you do fit to page, it will just take care of it. This is good, especially for invoices. If it has to reduce the font size or spacing by 5%, let it do that. I just want it in one page. You can make a copy of a spreadsheet. And then you can share it with the same people who have access to the original one. You can also copy comments. And now you have two separate spreadsheets. And if I edit something here, it doesn't change here. You can play with these tabs. You can make a copy of this. So let's say fruits. You can say duplicate. Now you have two of these tabs. You can rename it to whatever you want. Or you can copy this to a new spreadsheet by itself. So copy to new spreadsheet and you have a new spreadsheet with just the fruits. Or you can copy to an existing spreadsheet. So this spreadsheet is supposed to be blog statistics. Obviously, I don't want fruits in that. Maybe it's better to put it in the same spreadsheet as veggies. So I can say copy to existing spreadsheet. Let's continue and explore some other features. You can share a spreadsheet and there are different access levels. So if I add Sony, let's say, I can make them an editor. And the thing about it is they can also see the revision history, people who can edit it. So sometimes you want to share a document, but you don't want them to see the earlier version of it. So I'll give you this example. Suppose I have this spreadsheet with my investment details. And I have, let's say, 100 rupees in the bank and 200 rupees in a mutual fund. Now, this is confidential information. My friend asks me to share the spreadsheet so that he can use something similar. I don't want to share this. So what I need to do is I need to first remove this sensitive information and put in some random numbers like 1. Then I need to make a copy. Investment details for friend. Now I need to share this. He can see the revision history by clicking this, and there is no revision history. This is the first version. So modify the original, then make a copy and undo the changes in the original. You can't do it the other way around, where you first make a copy and then change these to random values, remove the confidential information. Now, if you share it, the person you share it can click this link and see the revision history. And they know, aha, I have 300 rupees in total. So, yeah, whoever you share and has edit access can see the revision history. Now, when I type, let's say Sony, I can make them a commenter. They can just leave comments. Sometimes you share something to get feedback from them, or just a viewer where they can't even use that. And you can, once somebody is a editor, you can also transfer the ownership of the spreadsheet to them. In which case, what happens is they become the owner and you become the editor. Your roles are swapped. And then now that they are the owner, they can even remove access from you, for you. And you have some more controls. Whether editors can change permissions and share, by default they can. Whether people can download, print, and copy. So if you have some confidential information, you want people to view it, but not download it or print it or copy it, yeah, you can use. So people can still take a screenshot. And even if that doesn't work, they can use their mobile to capture a photo of the screen of the PC. Anyway, this is one thing. Now you can see the revision history by clicking this, and it is organized by date. So you can see the version yesterday. This was the blank one. Every spreadsheet begins life this way. And you can expand this to see very small edits. For example, between this and this, what happened? these cells got, I think the background color got changed. So you can see very fine changes or bigger changes here. And you can name a version to refer to it later on. For example, you can say unedited data or whatever it is you want. And here you can see only named versions if you want, in addition to the current one. The other one is gone. This one. You can restore a version. So let's go to veggies. So for example, today I've messed up this spreadsheet, right? So I can say I can revert to yesterday's version, which is the one I want, before I messed it up to illustrate it to you. This is one thing you can do. The other thing you can do is you can also see an earlier version of it. Say you want the one with only one vegetable in it. Okay, you want this version, let's say. You can make a copy of this version of the spreadsheet. So instead of replacing the current version with this version, you can make a copy. So now you have a completely different spreadsheet. Moving on, you can also see the edit history of a cell. All the changes that happen. So let's say let's say the prices of potatoes have gone up to 30 rupees. Now I can see the edit history. The most recent one was replaced 10 with 30. The one before was added 10. For convenience, you can also format in alternating color. Oh, I deleted others. What are some other vegetables? Didn't I think? Now I can select this alternating colors. That makes it easy to read. And the first row, typically you have a header. In this case, you don't, so you uncheck it and you say done. That's it. Now you have this light shading. That's one more thing that's helpful. You can also insert tick boxes. So now when you do your shopping, you can put a tick mark of whichever you have purchased. The other thing you can do is you can also import. So here, when I say, so suppose I've exported this to Excel format, download as Excel. Okay, now I can import any Excel spreadsheet here. Upload. Veggies. I can create a new spreadsheet, in which case this sheet is as it is, and I create a new one like this. Notice that something got corrupted in the export import. The original version had tick boxes. So this happens when you convert formats. So you can do it as a new spreadsheet, or you can insert a new sheet within this. So I'll get a second tab if I select this. Or I can replace this entire spreadsheet also, in which case all this data gets removed. Or I can replace the current sheet within the spreadsheet. In this case, there's only one sheet. Let's add one more and then see. Now let me try importing. Okay, these are still not there. You can also append to the current sheet where this data is there, and the last row onwards it gets added. So a lot of ways you can import. So far, we have talked about all these dumb features, right? Which is like a two-dimensional text editor. But spreadsheets are so much more. Let me undo this and close this. You can see this version, it says restored from this. So it's a different version, but it's same as this version. Let's close this before I mess it up. So yeah, let's think about, just let's look at some calculation features here. So these numbers are prices, right? Don't enter this, rupees 30. Don't enter this. Because now you can't use this in a formula if you want to select. If you're spending 30 rupees per month on potatoes, how much are you spending in a year? 12 times that. It'll give an error because this is a string. Instead, what you should do is just put in 30, select this currency symbol. No, not that. Yeah, select this and say Indian rupee. And it does give paise. If you don't want that, click this button to reduce the number of decimal places. Now one, now 0. This is how you should do it. Don't enter the symbol directly. Enter just the number and then select the format. So now you can see it has calculated. If I change this to 40, this updates. This is so much better than the older way where you take a pen and paper and a calculator and do step 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 8 steps. And then you realize you made a mistake in the first step or the second step. Now you have to redo all the steps. The other thing is you should not enter numbers with commas like this. Suppose you received 1,23,000 from somebody. Don't enter this. This again is a string. If you multiply by 2, you get an error, right? But this is a text and cannot be coerced to a number. So don't do this. Instead, remove all the zeros. Since it's a rupee value, you can click this and select Indian rupee. Yeah, the formatting is not accurate. It should say 1, 2, 3. But anyway, suppose this were dollars, it would work well. One thing to watch out for is Google Sheets tries to autocorrect. So sometimes it works well. So if you say 23rd Jan 2022, I think it has recognized it as a date. But if you just say Jan 2022, it has converted it to a date format as 1st Jan, but that's not what you entered. So be careful. If this happens, select format, select this and plain text, which means you're telling it not to do any auto correction or auto smart stuff, right? So let's say you have a column of dates. Let's format this as date. Okay, you have in this, if you say 23 Jan 2022, it gets formatted as a date. Now if you say Feb 2022, it has converted it wrongly. Then you would say plain text and again you would re-enter what you entered originally. Now it won't convert. Percentage formatting. So suppose you're doing your tax. Suppose your income is 100 rupees and the tax rate is 50%, let's say. This is how you should do it. Tax amount. How much is that? 50% into 100, which is 50 rupees. You should enter it this way. Suppose you entered it this way, 100 rupees and 50 rupees here, and then you multiplied these two. You'll get 5,000. So you're paying tax of 5,000 rupees on 100 rupees. Why is that? 50 is not same as 50%. 50% means half. So when you are entering percentages, enter them with the percentage sign. Suppose you have already entered it this way, select the formatting and make it percent, and it will become 5,000%, correct it to 50%. Then it will work. So don't enter rupees 45. Don't enter numbers with commas. Don't enter percentages without the percent sign. You can select a range and see various numbers. Let's make it just a number. And if you select all of these, here it will show you the sum, 427. You can see the minimum value 20, maximum value, how many values are there. So this is basically excluding the blank cells. And count of numbers. How many of them are numbers? So let's try to mess with it. Very costly, let's say. Now if you select this range, the count of the count of numbers is 3 and the count is 4. See, now if one of them is blank, then what will happen? Oops. Then the count is 3 because the blank cell is not counted. That is one thing. You can also have conditional formatting. So if you go to this spreadsheet which I use for my um, consulting practice, there these numbers represent income that I'm getting. There are some expenses which I want to show in red, let's say, so that it's clear what are expenses. I can select this format, conditional formatting. Value is less than 0, and then I can say text color should be red. See, the negative values are all in red. And this is automatic. So if you change, let's say I'm lucky and my CA pays me instead of me paying him, it'll automatically change. So don't manually change the color. That is one thing. You can also have validation to reject incorrect values. So if you're doing a sprint planning spreadsheet, let's say, and then there's a task 1, task 2, task 3, right? And there's an estimate column where engineers are supposed to estimate each task in hours, let's say 10, 20. Each engineer, right? Whoever is assigned task 1 should put in this number. Let's assume this is 15, this is an easy task. Now, one problem I had was people would put in random junk like maybe half a week. I didn't want this in the spreadsheet because I would total up the estimates and do some calculations based on that. And this will cause that to go haywire. So what you can do is you can add validation. Go to data. Where is it? Data validation. And you can either select number between, let's say, I won't allow 0, let's say. Everything has to take some time. And it should be less than, I don't know, 40 because otherwise it doesn't fit in the sprint. And then I can say what happens. I can give some text as well. Okay, great. Now I have done this. Now suppose someone comes and edits and he puts in I don't know as the estimate. Then it will say this. So, it will prevent invalid data. You can also paste special, by the way. So let's say you've done some formatting for this. You made it blue, then you made it a huge font size for some weird reason. Then you have center aligned it. And you want to apply the formatting to all the others. You can select this and you can select this. Wait, you select this, copy, Control C, then select this, edit, paste special. You can say paste format only. So the values will remain the same and only the formatting gets pasted. Or conditional formatting only. Remember the -1 thing. Suppose in this sheet, instead of selecting the entire thing, I selected only one. Not data validation. Oh, by the way, there are other data validations as well. So if it is day of the week, you can select from a list of items. Monday, Tuesday, then people can't enter other things. You can also give a custom formula. So sorry, not data validation, formatting, conditional formatting. Great, let's say. Suppose I did something different. I can delete the conditional formatting this way. Now I don't have any. Earlier, what I showed you was I had selected all the values and then applied the conditional formatting. Suppose by mistake I select only the first value and then add a rule. And then I say if it is less than 0, this is the background color. You can change the background color or you can change the text color. Now I have selected here, right? This alone has a conditional formatting. This doesn't. Again, I can copy this cell, select the remaining cells, and say edit paste special conditional formatting only. So formatting, conditional formatting, etc. Data validation rules. You can also paste transposed, by the way. So let's undo this chunk. So suppose you are doing this and you create a new cell and you say edit, paste special, transposed. Now the rows have become columns and the columns have become rows if you want to do that. And when you paste it, you can again paste the values only or the formatting. So let's say, going back here, no, I think was it this sheet? Okay, never mind. So basically, let's say I've applied some formatting here. Maybe I made it giant well. Now I want to copy paste this. The formatting also gets copied, but when I paste it, I can select this and say paste values only. Then the value alone gets pasted. And this one disappears, by the way. You can't get it back later. Now if I click this, that won't come. Only when you paste, you have to immediately change. That is one thing you can do. The other thing you can do is if you have a text editor, let's say, and you put in something with commas, when you paste it, you can say split text to columns. And it has become two different columns. Suppose you haven't selected that option and this goes away, then in data, there's still split text to columns. You can do that later on as well. What else can you do? You can create a chart. Let's go back to fruits. Let's say we don't want all of this. Oh, the note is still there. How do I delete the note? This disappears. The UI is a little buggy. Okay, if you just delete the text in the note itself gets deleted. Because you can have a blank cell with a note in it, which doesn't make sense. So now you can create a chart of these. Insert chart. There you go. You can have a pie chart. Let's say this is the amount of money you have spent. Then you know that pineapples themselves cost a third of your income, of your expenses. Or you can create a more traditional chart. You can edit this, the title, which fruits are costly. You can select the font size, color, you can make it bold, italic, etc. Similarly, you can edit this vertical title, this one. You can show data labels here so that people know what the actual values are. Because otherwise, if you look at it, you know Sapota costs more than mango, but it's hard to know how much Sapota costs. You have to trace it back here and guess maybe it is 35 rupees. Instead, if you add data labels, actual values are shown. You can have legends. Yeah, you can format it. Do you want this text or you don't? Vertical axis. Anyway, so this is about charts. Moving on, let's delete the chart. You can move the chart to its own sheet, by the way. You have a chart sheet. Yeah, moving on, you can sort things. So suppose you have this. you want to sort this entire thing, what you can do is you can select this data sort range. Let's say you want to show the costliest fruits first. So pineapple, then it's in decreasing order. Note that, let me undo it. Note that you have to start in column B, which is the column based on which you want to sort when you select, and then drag with the mouse to column A. Now, in the selection, notice that B2 is selected, column B is selected here. So that is why this shows sort range by column B. Suppose you make the mistake of selecting this way from A, then this will say sort range by column A, right? So that is one thing, sort range or sort sheet. By the way, generally you should use sort sheet, not sort range, because what happens is if you select this and say data sort range by column B, then the data has gotten corrupted. Now it's showing pineapple as 20 because it has sorted just this while leaving this alone. So you don't want to say sort range, you want to say sort sheet. You can also create a named, a named range. So let's see that. So here, suppose you want to say total equal to sum and then average of, you type the formula, you make sure there's an open bracket, then you can use the keyboard to find one end of the range, either the first or the last, then press shift and go to the other end. You can go top to bottom, bottom to top, doesn't matter. These are all rupees. Even if you apply the rupee thing to this price, which is not a number, it doesn't cause any problem. So I actually intended to select 100 to 55. But by mistake, I selected the header as well. But nothing bad happens if you specify Indian rupee. So, okay, so now I have fruits. The total is so much. Now, suppose I add one more here. Let's say we'll add an orange, which is, I don't know, very cheap, 10 rupees. Now you have to remember when you do this, you have to go and modify the formula. It still says B2 to B7, and you can double click it, it will highlight and show. Or you can press enter to edit it, it will highlight and show. Or you can say view, show, formulae. Then instead of showing the result of the formula, it will show the formula. So here you have to edit it. Now you see the problem with this? The total is till B8, including orange. The average is only till B7 because they are two different formula. To avoid this, you can create a named range. So you can say this one. Where is named range? Yes. Named range 1. Um, so prices. Okay, so now I have a named range. Now here I can say, instead of sum B2, B8, I can say sum of prices. And this can be average of prices. Now the thing is, suppose I add one more here. Let's say musk melon at 50 rupees. Now if I edit the range here till B9, both of these get updated. This is the DRY, don't repeat yourself principle. The other thing is you can also copy paste from a website. A table from a website. So this is my Substack thing. It shows me some information. I can just copy paste all of these, let's say till here, into a spreadsheet. And it automatically splits it into columns. So now if I want to see what the total traffic is, I can select this and it says 469. Whereas here it is showing by source, how many are direct, how many are coming from LinkedIn, etc. But it's not showing the total number. You can do that very easily with spreadsheets. You can also get column stats. You can say data column stats. So it shows some bunch of stuff. Total rows, empty cells, sum, average, median, minimum, etc. So if you select something else like my consulting income, if you select this, maybe this would be a better data. Here, see my total income was $4,000. On average, I'm earning so much, etc. etc. Minimum was so much, and the maximum was 512. So the client that paid me the most paid me 512. Or the single payment I received, the highest value was $512. You can also add an image. That's one more thing. Now let's finally look at formula. And we'll also talk about pivot tables. Actually, let's talk about pivot tables first. So this is my consulting spreadsheet. There's a month. In April, for example, I paid two people. I paid my chartered accountant and I paid Microsoft for Microsoft 365. And I received income from two clients named J and A. So multiple transactions going on in 1 month. Some receiving, some paying. And some of they have different dollar rates. Now, if I now you can create a pivot table to summarize this in various forms. So let's scroll to the bottom. Suppose I want to find out which dollar rate is resulting in most of my income. Then I know $15 per hour because I have different clients who pay me different prices. The client who is paying me $15 has generated the most income for me. Not the highest rate because there's only less clients at this rate. I have a lot of clients at this rate, for example. So it is showing me that. Let's close the conditional formatting. Yeah, these are the pivot tables. You can say order by descending, sort by income. So you see these two things, rate and income. So you're sorting by income. You're not sorting by rate in descending. And show totals shows this 5116. And each of these is summarized by sum because there would be multiple credits I have received at $15. It's adding all of them to create this number 2487. So you can find out, you can split your income based on the hourly rate. Instead, you can split it based on the client. Here I know client B is the one who is paying me the most money. Next is J, which is similar. A and D are irrelevant. They're not paying much. And notice that the negative values are not showing here because I do have Microsoft and CA, a designer and a lawyer for whom the amounts are negative because I have paid them. Those are not showing here. The reason they're not showing is I've added a filter. Value is greater than or equal to 0. That's why the negative values are not showing. And you can add two columns as well. This is the total income, sum. C is the average income. So anyway, these are about pivot tables. Now we'll talk about formula. So simplest, so any formula uses an equal to sign. If you just type 2 plus 2, it's not a formula, it's just a string. To use a formula, you have to say equal to 2 plus 2. So for example, if you are entering a blood pressure, you can do it this way. It won't divide. You can use arithmetic operators. You can use named functions as well, like sum. You see? Now, suppose you're tracking the price last month as well for these vegetables. Right? For now, I'll just be lazy and put it as just change some. Let's have changed the prices for last month for these vegetables. Now, this formula, if I grab this blue square at the bottom right of this, then the formula gets extended here. Oh, actually, we are using a named range. So let's delete this named range. Let's do it the more traditional way. this. Forget average, let's say we don't need it. Now, if you grab this bottom right blue corner and extend it, oops, it gets extended here. So now this formula will be for this. This is one way. The other way is you just select the cell, copy, select this cell, paste. It's smart enough. It is adjusting it. You can also paste the value. See what happened when I said paste value? Instead of pasting the formula, it pasted the result of the formula. That's one thing. If I want this formula to refer to these cells, then what do? I select this. I select this here. Copy. And then here. This is just text. This formula bar that you see here is just text. It's dumb. Doesn't do anything smart. So you can see it calculated for this. So if you copy paste from this thing, the formula bar, it's a dumb copy. It doesn't adjust anything. Whereas if you copy paste here, it adjusts. So that's one thing. You can have references between tabs as well. So suppose you want to make a copy of this data here. You can say C1, right? It's just a copy. Now if I make this 400, this or whatever, 40,000, this changes. You can also use these references across sheets. So you can say equal to, and while this is open, switch the tab. Now you are in selection mode and click the thing. And then it doesn't work, as it often fails. The better way is to learn the syntax. So here you want C1, you want this value. You want this value to come there. If you just say C1, it refers to C1 in this sheet. That's not what you want. So you say sheet 1 exclamation C1. So this means C1 from sheet 1, which is 40 rupees here. Now if I make this 50, it becomes 50 here. This is one. You can have if as a formula. You can have and or not logical operators. You can have a sum. You can have a sum if. Sum if, you can click this. Range, criterion, and you can expand this to get more help. So the range would be B2 to B9. The criterion would be a string. B2 to B9 greater than 30, let's say. So now only the values greater than 30 got summed here. You can see. Now if you say greater than 300, there is nothing that is greater than 300, so it will sum. If you say greater than 99, there's only one which is 100, so it will pick up only that. So you can do this. You can also do count if, which will just count. Instead of adding up, it will just count how many are greater than 99, which is 1. You can also do something called a sum product. So let's, as if we don't have enough tabs, we'll create one more. So let's say you have a shopping thing. Item, price, how many? So you purchased a pen which cost 20 rupees and you purchased only one. You purchased a notepad which costs 45 rupees and you purchased two. Now how much did you spend in the entire month? For that you can use the sum product formula. And you have two arrays. Oops. 20 plus 90, 110. See? So you can just do sum product Google Sheets if you want more help. Google has a support page for each of the formula. So basically, yes, these are the things. So when you do this, it'll take this and multiply. And then it'll take this and multiply. There's a more primitive way of doing this, which is you just do this. into this. And then you accept the autofill suggestion. So now you're doing the product. Now you do the sum, which is 110. But you can do it directly with sum product. You can also do product. So suppose you are creating a funnel for your website. So visitors. Suppose you're selling an app and you have a website for that. Let's say 1,000 people have visited it. Um, and then let's take the FutureCam website. You have this link, download on App Store. Click link. Let's say 20% click the link. And then let's say they have downloaded from the App Store. After clicking the link, let's say 60%. And then in the app, you have a payment prompt and some people pay. Let's assume that is 10%. Now, how many paying users do you have? You can use a product function. It will multiply all of those. 10% off, 60% off, 20% off, 1,000, which is 12 paying users. You can also sort things. Let's go back to the blog stats thing. Suppose you want to sort these. So you can say sort A1, oops, A1 to E4. When you give a range, the first one before the colon should always be less than the one after. So you can't say E to A. Or if it is A1 to A10, you can't say A10 to A1. That doesn't work. 2, sort column. And then true for ascending. So now it has sorted by the email subscribers. 0, then 2, then 4. It can't sort by this because it's a string. Can't sort by this because again it's a string. You can see it hasn't sorted by this. If it had sorted in increasing order, 173 would be the last. If it had sorted in decreasing order, it would be the first, but it's in the middle. So here, because I said it's 2, yeah. So notice this is unique in a formula. Normally, if I type a formula here, 2 into something, this formula affects only the cell into which it's typed. It doesn't affect the other cells. But this formula, its output is not one data point, its output is a table. So this is one thing. You can also do filter. So for example, let's delete this. A2 to E4. This B2 to B4 greater than 10. So basically you're saying, show me only blogs where the email subscribers is greater than 10, which is only Substack. This is the entire data to put here, and this is the column to check. You can also do currency conversions. So in this thing, if you want to know your profit in rupees, you can say equal to this, oops, into Google Finance USD INR is a conversion rate. It still says dollar here, it's dumb, so you have to manually change it to rupee. So yes, I want 2 lakh rupees. And if I load this sheet after 2 months and the currency conversion and the FX rates have changed, this will re-update. So this is one more thing. You can also do min, max, median, etc. And that's it. These are some, I would say, perhaps beginner to intermediate level features of Google Sheets. And there are more features. I am not an advanced spreadsheet user, and spreadsheets are very powerful. They underpin the economy. A lot of critical work happens in spreadsheets. Some spreadsheets are so sophisticated that when you change one of the values, it takes an hour to recalculate. And billions of dollars worth decisions are taken based on spreadsheets. So spreadsheets have a lot of power. And when I was early in my career as an engineer, I used to look down upon them. But actually, that was my dumbness because I used to think whatever it's for PMs or something. But actually, it's a very powerful tool. Obviously, it can't do everything a program can do, But what it can do, it's extremely powerful actually. And it's much more intuitive than programming. And when you write a program, you write the logic, you don't see the data. So the reason programming is hard is you have to imagine how the data is changing as you see the code. But here you're working directly with the data, so which makes it easier. And the barrier to entry of spreadsheets is very low. Anybody can type sheet.new and type potato 10, tomato 20. That's it. It need not be complex. So anyway, I found this useful. I hope you found this useful. Let me know in the comments. And if you have any spreadsheet tips or anything you would like to share, again leave a comment. Let's learn from each other.